Okay, all right, let's talk about this half-season review of The Handmaid's Tale. Before I get into it, if you have not seen my first part of the review of the season or the discussion of the season, I did the first 5 episodes all in one video. So if you want to check that one out before you check this one out, I suggest you go do that. I will put the link into the description below, and I will also put a little tag in the top right corner of the screen right now so you can click on that and give it a watch. There will be spoilers, so obviously another warning, if you have not watched the season so far, if you're not up to date, don't watch this. I don't want to spoil it for you. So just like every other Handmaid's Tale video I've done, let's open it with "Blessed be the fruit." Or how about "Shut the because clearly June isn't taking shit anymore. I would start with episode 6 and move my way up, but I'm sorry, I gotta jump right to episode 10. The most spoilery part of this video, we're kicking it off right at the beginning. What a wild episode, and honestly, I think one of the best episodes we've seen from Handmaid's Tale since season 3. They did not fail to deliver. I think a lot of us going into this season were considering the possibility that someone was going to die. I had a feeling maybe Fred would bite the bullet in this season, but as the episode started to develop, I thought maybe not. I don't really know if they would kill Joseph Fiennes and get rid of his character that way. Oh, they did. Justice was served, if not revenge, however you want to call it, but he got what was coming to him. You know, he thought he was going to be able to go off to Europe for a little while, live a free man, breathe some fresh air, have some espresso, homemade pastries, come back to Canada, be this wholesome, loving father and husband with no consequences. Obviously, it's not going to happen. I thought maybe the way the story was going to go was indeed Fred was going to go over to Europe, and then once he got back to Canada, things weren't going to work out for him the way he was maybe promised by the Canadian government and the Americans, but it actually went vastly different than what I thought because he was brutally murdered by June, Emily, and a couple other of ex-handmaids who have made it safely to Canada. Now, to keep Fred out of Canada, obviously for you who have all seen it, he was traded for 20 or 25 odd women from Gilead, and they went to Canada, and he goes back to Gilead with Lawrence and Nick. Obviously, when he sees Lawrence and Nick, he's torn. He doesn't know what to believe. Is he safe? Is he not safe? Because he knew that once going back to Gilead, he was probably going to be killed, if not at least tortured. But I think the thing that would be dangerous about Fred is even returning to Gilead. You know he has pull, you know he still has a certain amount of power, and he is just great with manipulation. So one has to wonder if maybe him going back to Gilead for punishment reasons wouldn't end up actually being punishment at all. June shows up in the middle of the woods, makes out with Nick, and Fred is just looking at them like, what the hell is going on? She lets him out of the handcuffs. All the women come out of the woods. You want to be killed? Or would you like to run? He runs, and they chase him down like dogs. And I think what was so awesome about that scene is they taught the women to treat others like that when there is a disciplinary action. That's what they did in Gilead. You've taught us this. We're gonna return the favor. Going away from Fred's death for a little while, because we'll go back there, let's talk about how it all got to that point. The episode after June and Janine are crossing through the city and they get bombed, Moira ends up showing in a relief effort. They're not allowed to take survivors over, and June doesn't want to go because she needs to save Hannah, and Moira's not taking a no for an answer, blah, blah, blah. I thought that episode dragged a lot. The connection between June and her daughter Hannah is very important. It is one of the driving forces of the show in certain ways, but there needs to come a point where it's like enough is enough. And you know, let alone in the beginning half of the season when June saw her daughter, I don't fully understand why, but her daughter was just terrified of her. It won't work out the way I believe June thinks it will. That's where episode 6 was a little bothersome for me because I can't go, I need to save Hannah. Well, you're not going to save Hannah. You're in Chicago now anyways, and she's somewhere else, completely unknown to us. I'm pretty sure they mentioned where she actually is, but it's just not worth staying there. It was really annoying watching that episode because it's like, June, shut up, get on the boat and leave. That is until Moira and the people that she was working with didn't even want to take her in the first place because they could get in trouble for saving people. Nonsense. Anyways, moving forward, having June finally step foot on Canada was awesome because I honestly think for a long time there were a lot of people, and me myself, were thinking it's never going to happen. We're never going to see June be free in a sense. We're never going to see her go to Canada and fight Gilead from a place where she can actually stand upright with a voice and freedom and, you know, everything else that comes with it. I didn't actually think she was ever gonna end up going to Canada, and, you know, they did it. I am very happy with how they done it. Watching the rest of the season play out and seeing her brand new relationship with Luke, how that worked out, seeing how her friendship was somewhat similar but also very changed with Moira, her getting to reconnect with Emily and Rita, and all of that stuff was just really fun to watch, and it was very different. We have seen so much of these characters play out their story in handmade robes, and it was time to change that. It was time to get that. I'm not saying that story is done and over with because it's in the name of the show, but I just don't know how much more June could have done strapped up in the red with the white cap. I don't really know if that could have moved forward in exciting way, and I'm glad she ended up coming to Canada. But speaking of handmaids, what is going on with Janine? I swear Janine cannot catch a break. Lydia haunts her every step. Every time Janine tries to escape or go somewhere or do something, Lydia is always there, and she's always there to trap her into those meaty little wings of hers. This is a bit of a complaint of mine that I don't know if many people share. I get it if you don't, but why is she a handmaid again? Why are they putting her back in this exact same situation? We all remember Mrs. Keys. We haven't seen her since like episodes 1 and 2. And then she returns later on in this season where she is now being transitioned to a handmaid. And essentially we see Janine trying to get on Mrs. Keys' good side again to essentially convince her that, you know, put on a brave face for the ants. Make it look like you're willing and you're happy to be a handmaid, but, you know, in the background, at least between me and you, we can be civil. You can be whoever you are, and I can be Janine. And see, this is another issue with that story is after episode 5, we saw Janine once, and I don't understand where the story is going because I almost felt like you're just rehashing her as a handmaid again. And I want to see Janine's story move in a powerful way, and I'm really, really hoping that Janine and Mrs. Keys become like this new June dynamic duo in Gilead. I don't want to be disappointed because I've started to love Janine's character so much, and I just don't want to see her being diminished to another lowly handmaid again. Speaking of that realm and the whole handmaid situation, Lydia, come on girl, you gotta snap out of it. What's going on that keeps you clinging on to this role of just indoctrinating women to be baby makers? And you see things, yo. You're seeing it. You're seeing Gilead change. You're seeing rules change, you're seeing people change, you're seeing people become tougher, and you're still holding off on making any changes yourself. Okay, actually, maybe that's not too fair of me to say, because she did definitely get an earful from Joseph Lawrence in one of the episodes where he essentially told her, you gotta stop being so rough and mean to the girls, especially Janine. And when Janine returns, you can see how Lydia was much more passive, because Lydia has been very aggressive, or at the very least passive aggressive in the past. But from what we started to see from her, we did start to see more of a passive type of attitude from her, but still no change. Like her brain didn't click one day and say, oh wow, what we're doing is wrong. Yeah, this is like a different form of genocide. This is not good. So I'm still really lost on what the Lydia story is, especially too when you saw this season that all the other aunts almost look down on her and gossip about her and like make fun of her behind her back. It does look like from those specific people, Lydia is maybe losing a little bit of respect, and maybe her character is trying to convince herself like, no, I'm still a powerful woman and I can control this, but it's almost looking like she can't. And because we didn't see as much of them this season as I thought we were, I'm really hoping season 5 starts to transition their characters into a story we can really dig our teeth in. Now, since we're in the realm of Gilead, what is going on with Nick and Lawrence? I mean, they're clearly on the side of June's. They're clearly trying to change Gilead from within. We clearly did not see much of them this season. And I mean, I don't want to say we didn't see them at all, because we did, but just not as much as we have seen them in the past. I mean, unless I'm blanking here, the most we did see of Nick, other than the most recent episode, the season finale, was when him and June went to that safe house where June was being watched by the American government just in case, and they had this really romantic scene where they were spending time together and he got to see his daughter again. And just as June leaves to say goodbye to Nick, he puts a wedding ring back on his finger. And that is the biggest mystery of Nick. Who is he married to? And I mean, you can't necessarily blame the guy. You know, June is in Canada with her husband, Luke. He's obligated in Gilead to have these relationships and to be married as a commander. I'm sure he didn't really have much option, but I think the interesting thing is who is he married to? And then also Lawrence. I want to know a lot more about Lawrence and really what's going on there. You have that one scene where he's talking on the phone with June and Mark, the American official. They have this conversation about how she wants to still save Hannah, and Lawrence is essentially like, just shut up. Just enjoy your freedom, shut up, leave it alone. And the conversation doesn't really end the best. And then we see him in this most recent episode where he offered the trade for Fred and the 20 women that were taken out of Gilead to go to Canada. And funny enough, that scene where June, Mark, and Lawrence are sitting in like this abandoned restaurant, that is actually Hutch's on the Beach off of Lake Ontario. And I'm actually 10 minutes away from that location, and just seeing that was really, really cool to know that they shot that so close to home. So that's just a little fun fact for you. But in season 5, and this goes for Nick as well, I would really love to see where their stories go. I would really like to see what they're planning in Gilead and how they want to attempt to make that government maybe look different and act different in the future. And you know, Serena and Fred, I also, and maybe I'm just being picky, maybe I need to rewatch the season again to, you know, actually be accurate about this. I also do think that throughout this season, a lot of the characters are more sporadic. So like you'll see them within like the first 2 episodes, and then you won't see them till episode 7. And I did feel that with Fred and Serena, that we didn't really see enough of them. Fred's death, it was needed. I mean, in a way, maybe expected. But Joseph Fiennes as an actor is so amazing that his presence in the show will definitely be missed. I don't think anyone can deny that. He did have an interview with Esquire, and I think a couple of other places. He knew about Fred's death since season 3. He was also really happy to be done with the role because he himself knows how like sick and sadistic that these government officials, these councilmen of Gilead are, and Fred himself. He made mention that he's going to be sad that he's not going to be able to work with them every day because behind the scenes it's a great time. But he also did say that he will more than likely be returning for flashback scenes, which I will assume will be in season 5. That would come into play when Serena opens the letter of Fred's dismembered finger and the wedding ring that June obviously chopped off and sent to Serena. And I'm sure when Serena sees this, she is going to relive memories and have flashbacks of her and Fred together before Gilead. Now, how about that part with Mark as he's giving Fred over to Joseph Lawrence and Nick, and Mark obviously knows this guy's about to die. And, you know, Fred is just spewing all this, you know, a promise is a promise, I have rights, blah, blah, blah. Well, you didn't really give many other people rights in Gilead, but it is what it is. And then he says to Mark about, I can't remember the exact line, but he essentially says, like, you want my wife. You know, like, good luck. And it's interesting because I've had this notion since, what was it, season 2, when Mark first met her at the hotel in Toronto when they came for their first visit. Mark kind of likes her, and I think maybe she might like him too. Now that's tricky. You're gonna get into bed with a criminal who's having a child, whose child will honestly be ripped away from her, more than likely. I don't know how that's gonna work as well. That is a big unanswered question, and interesting to say the very least. Okay, Luke and Moira, what's good? Wake up, get into the game. They ain't gonna lay over and take it. They're gonna fight too. And I suggest that if they fight, you shouldn't lay over and take it. But unfortunately, that's kind of what they did this entire season. You know, even that episode where Moira has that, like, intervention club with all the ladies who have escaped Gilead. You know, it's all about, talk about your feelings. And that's good. Talk about your feelings, but act on them too, and I think June wants to act. I'm not saying you should go out and kill. I mean, she went out and killed Fred. That's not always the answer, but there are so many different ways to fight. I think Moira just got way too complacent. You know, Moira, of all people, should know how it is. She should know what June's gone through because she went through very similar situations when she was there. But also, too, Moira's got to realize that June was in there much longer than her. Years. And you could see how Emily was taking that step back. She was becoming way too complacent, and she was just okay with how life was moving. June had to change that, especially for Emily, because Emily, of all people, shouldn't just have to be like, I want to forget about it. And in times of trauma, stuff like that happens. You either want to get up and fight and make a difference and change things, or other people want to escape and to just forget like it ever happened, and that isn't always the healthiest option. Luke also needs to realize this as well, because your wife is never going to be the same person. There has to be a piece of him that knows that's true. Luke also has to get on the same page that I don't think you understand how much hate and anger these women have, especially your wife June, who was in the thick of it. So in the season finale, when they allowed Fred to essentially be a free man, and she's like, no, like, he needs to suffer, he needs to die, whatever, like, they're just gonna let him go free, that's garbage. Luke was just like, yeah, you know, like, they've made their decision, we should move on. Yeah, it can't work like that, because if that's how you're going to think about things now, essentially Gilead could just get away with anything no matter what country they're in if they have that much leniency, and you can't give them that leniency. And last but not least, let's talk about June. June had some amazing moments in the latter half of this season. How about the amazing Oscar-worthy scene of her visiting Serena, and Serena is down on her knees begging for June to forgive her, and she's just screaming at Serena, do you understand me? You know, talking about how she's gonna strip her child from her, and that was a speechless moment. And it was so well written and so well filmed at the trial when she spoke in front of judges and juries and essentially explained the entire story of what goes on in Gilead and what these women have to face. One long shot of it on her face, and she is just pitching away at everything they've done to her and all these other women. And then, of course, to mention one more time, the entire orchestrated death of Fred Waterford in episode 10. It was honestly a fantastic scene, and just to show you that karma's a bitch. And then at the very end, when she returns home and she's kissing her daughter goodbye, and Luke finds out what she did, and he slowly like drops against the wall, and you know, she says, "Give me 5 minutes and I'll be gone." Where is June going? Another question that will have to wait until season 5. But regardless, this is June, the resistance fighter, in a whole new light, in a different area. Who knows how much crazier this show is going to get in season 5 and what type of damage is going to be caused. Now, to wrap this video up, overall, I did think the latter half of this season was good. I do think it was much more enjoyable than the first half of the season. And like I said, if you've watched the first video I made, I don't dislike the first half. I just think that this half was paced much better. I think it was much more exciting. There were some beautifully done scenes. My biggest complaint with the show is how staggered some of these characters are. Usually in other seasons, you would see all these characters every single episode or every second episode, you know, usually at the most, but this season, everyone is all over the place. The second thing, just so many unanswered questions. There is so much we don't know, and I almost feel like they could have taken a couple of episodes to at least maybe not fully answer some of these questions we have, but maybe to answer a piece of it, and then we could get to watch it develop in the future and get more answers to maybe more questions. But I guess that is what this show is good at, and it keeps you wanting more. Yeah, maybe they succeeded, and maybe I'm just being petty. Well, praise be, everyone. That is the end of this video. If you did like it, make sure to leave a like and to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with future content, and also check out the other Handmaid Tale videos I do have on this channel. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of this entire season of Handmaid's Tale, and also tell me what you would like to see in season 5 as well. But just like usual, until next time everyone, may the Lord open.
So that when he kills that baby inside your womb, you will feel a fraction of the pain that you caused us when you tore our children from our arms. Do you understand me? Do you understand me?